March 3rd, across centuries, this day has changed the world. From the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk, ending Russia's involvement in World War I, to the entry of Florida as America's 27th state, and the patent of the telephone by Alexander Graham Bell. The Star-Spangled Banner becomes the U.S. national anthem. The first U.S. Congress meets. Women press forward for the right to vote. And explorers and astronauts reach beyond boundaries. Across politics, science, music, and exploration, March 3rd resonates with history. Let's rewind. This is your This Day in History. On March 3rd, 1918, the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk was signed between Bolshevik Russia and the Central Powers, redrawing the map of Eastern Europe. At the negotiating table, Russian delegates accepted harsh terms, ending Russia's participation in World War I after devastating losses. German military officials secured vast territorial gains, forcing Russia to cede land, including Ukraine, Belarus, and the Baltic states. The treaty led to mass displacement as millions fled new borders, altering the lives of countless families within days. Its effects reverberated for decades, shaping modern Eastern Europe and fueling tensions that would later ignite anew. On March 3, 1845, the United States Congress officially admitted Florida as the 27th state of the Union. Florida's statehood followed a contentious territorial era marked by clashes between settlers and the region's original inhabitants. With admission, Florida gained representation and new investments, while debates over slavery and identity intensified. The new state ushered in waves of migration, transforming frontier swamps into burgeoning farms and small towns. On March 3, 1847, Alexander Graham Bell was born, a future inventor who would revolutionize communication. Encouraged by his family's work with the deaf, Bell experimented with transmitting vocal sounds electrically. His breakthrough arrived with a telephone, patented in 1876, a device that would soon connect distant voices across continents. Early public demonstrations fascinated crowds, signaling the rise of instant long-distance communication. The legacy of Bell's invention shaped industries and personal lives, linking the world in ways once unimaginable. On March 3, 1931, the Star-Spangled Banner was officially adopted as the national anthem of the United States. Composed by Francis Scott Key in 1814, after witnessing the defense of Fort McHenry, the anthem captured a nation's resilience. Adoption of the anthem unified Americans as generations learned and sang its words in schools and public gatherings. Broadcasts and performances of the anthem soon became traditions preceding national events and major milestones. Its enduring lines and the flag they honor remain symbols of both unity and ongoing struggle. On March 3, 1789, the first United States Congress assembled, marking the start of federal government under the Constitution. Here, legislators crafted the Bill of Rights and shaped the nation's earliest laws amid spirited debate. Debates touched every facet of governance, from taxation to civil liberties, mapping the road ahead for a fledgling nation. The convening of Congress gave form to the constitutional experiment, forging a government that would outlast centuries of change. On March 3, 1913, thousands of women paraded in Washington, D.C. to demand the right to vote in the U.S. Led by activist Alice Paul, the parade took place the day before Woodrow Wilson's inauguration, drawing national attention. Protesters faced harassment and violence, yet persisted, highlighting the urgency and bravery of their campaign. These women's resolve inspired a movement that would ultimately win the vote with the 19th Amendment in 1920. The 1913 March stands as a milestone, symbolizing both the costs and triumphs of democratic change. On March 3, 1875, the U.S. Congress passed the Page Act, restricting immigration from Asia. The law barred the entry of Chinese women, setting a precedent for exclusionary policies targeting Asian immigrants. Framed as protection against forced labor, the act reflected rising xenophobia and anxieties over labor competition. Over time, the Page Act paved the way for later laws like the Chinese Exclusion Act, reshaping immigration for generations. On March 3, 1969, NASA's Apollo 9 mission launched, marking a pivotal test for lunar exploration. Apollo 9 tested the lunar module in Earth orbit, rehearsing maneuvers essential for later moon landings. Hundreds of scientists and engineers monitored the mission, aware that a single failure might ground the lunar dream. The successful test propelled NASA forward, bringing the world one step closer to humanity's first steps on the lunar surface. On March 3, 1894, British writer Oscar Wilde initiated a libel suit that would end in scandal and imprisonment. Wilde's lawsuit against the Marquess of Queensberry was an act of defiance against public accusations and prejudice. The ensuing trials exposed Victorian taboos and hypocrisy, making Wilde both a cause célèbre and a tragic figure. Convicted and imprisoned, Wilde's story reflected persistent struggles over identity, law, and society. On March 3, 1975, New Zealand's Waitangi Tribunal was officially established to address Maori grievances about treaty breaches. The tribunal aimed to investigate historical injustices and recommend reparations for land and resource losses. Its work grew with persistent advocacy and public protest as Maori communities sought recognition of treaty rights. The Waitangi Tribunal endures as a symbol of ongoing reconciliation and dialogue in New Zealand. On March 3, 1849, the U.S. Congress created the Minnesota Territory amid the fever of westward migration. With boundaries stretching far beyond present-day Minnesota, the territory became a waypoint for immigrants pursuing fortune. The new territory saw booming settlements, but also intensified conflict with Dakota and Ojibwe peoples. The establishment of the Minnesota Territory propelled land speculation, frontier towns, and waves of newcomers shaping the region. On March 3, 1861, Tsar Alexander II issued the Emancipation Manifesto, freeing serfs throughout the Russian Empire. Reform affected over 23 million people, granting personal freedom and the right to own property. Though liberation brought new opportunities, many struggled with debt and limited resources, facing uncertain futures. The abolition of serfdom marked a turning point in Russia's modernization, but sowed seeds for future unrest. On March 3, 1992, Bosnia and Herzegovina declared independence from Yugoslavia after a national referendum. The declaration was met with celebration by many, but signaled the beginning of ethnic tensions and impending war. Within weeks, Bosnia was plunged into conflict, drawing international involvement and humanitarian crisis. Years of violence would shape modern Bosnia, leaving scars and shaping the country's post-war identity. On March 3, 1902, explorer Captain Robert Falcon Scott and his team reached the most southerly point ever attained at the time, pushing the limits of human endurance. Their achievement paved the path for future Antarctic exploration, at great personal cost and lasting legacy. From acts of emancipation to journeys into the unknown, March 3 reveals how history's turning points echo through eras of transformation, challenge, and discovery.